Yo, Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant looks like it's back on the menu. They could be finalizing a deal, just as I told you. I'm going to talk about that undisputed fight and more in this video, so don't miss this. Stay tuned. What's up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Before I get started, I need you all to do a huge favor to other boxing fans. Take the additional seconds that it takes, and I need you guys to smash the like button. You guys don't realize how important this is for the discoverability and searchability for others who may be looking for the answers, the informative boxing content that I present, that I drop. So do me a favor, do the other fans of boxing a favor, and throw a like on the video. It takes a couple of seconds, and it's something that gets recognized and gets the message out there. Now, Canelo payday, you want payday. I know that reports come out, ESPN says that he's back in the sack, pause, with Caleb Plant, and they're nearing a deal. Now, if you were on my last live stream, I told you this. I said my sources' information came out that it looks like they were trying to revisit the deal, and they made some progress, and it looks like we could get this fight next for Undisputed. We could get this, and Caleb Plant can get a payday. He won't payday. I know that. I told you this in my last stream. If you don't believe me, go listen to it. And then this article came out. So this was before any tweet from ESPN, before anything. So, you know, for the latest and greatest, make sure you stay tuned. Now, nonetheless, this is a good fight. I want to see it. ESPN now reporting it as well. Says sources, Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant nearing a deal for a super middleweight showdown title fight in November. Canelo, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will link in the description. Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant are nearing a deal for a November fight that would crown an undisputed super middleweight champion, multiple sources told ESPN today. Alvarez Plant was agreed to last month, which we'll get to, so stay tuned to the end of this video. But wait, there's more. They agreed last month for a fight September 18th. Sources said officials were simply waiting on signatures when the whole deal fell apart at the 11th hour. After talks collapsed, Alvarez turned his attention to a fight with Bivol. When that matchup couldn't be finalized in time to stage the fight on September 18th, Canelo decided to delay his return until November. That's where we're at now. Now boxing's top star deep talks with PBC for a one-fight deal which would feature him on Fox pay-per-view, sources said. The prospect of a fight between Alvarez and #1 pound for pound Caleb Plant, undefeated title holder, was dead just 2 weeks ago. With Alvarez and PBC, Al Heyman locked in a stalemate. The 31 moved on to talks with Bivol when the Mexican star decided to forego September 18th, instead to fight on November. The possibility of Plant returned to the table. And if you follow my channel, I've discussed and closed all this. Becoming undisputed has long been Canelo's goal, yada, yada, yada. Plant was slated to make $10 million plus, also a career high. Canelo was set to earn upward of $40 million guarantee, a career best in the proposed deal. So for all intents and purposes, they were taking care of Canelo. They were respecting him as the A side, and it was a good deal, which again, when I get my thoughts in the second half of this video, we're gonna get into it. Caleb Plant said that Canelo had ridiculous demands. One of them that was absurd is, if I get sick or injured, then Canelo gets a late replacement for the same amount of money that he was guaranteed, which would be preposterous. Nobody's gonna pay $40 million for Canelo versus Caleb Truax, who has no belt, lost to Plant, you know what I mean, or whatever fight. There's only one other person in the division, 168, with the belt outside of Canelo, so it just is logistically doesn't make any sense. Now, it's unfortunate when Errol Spence or whatever pulls out with an eye injury, but things happen. You postpone the event in certain situations. The reason they chose to continue and go forth with the Pacquiao fight is they had another suitable, name known and average, somebody's been on main events, champion in the same weight class. So they said, let's not cancel it. Pacquiao can fight him, or then there's Ugas of Cuba and we can keep this card rocking, and then Errol can get healthy, do the rehab on his eye and get better, and then face the winner, So that's that. Caleb Plant said Canelo, his bark is bigger than his bite, and if Canelo were to get sick or injured, then we got to wait for him. We've been waiting for him to get his deal done with his wedding, shooting TV shows, and Canelo was on a golf tournament. Now we try to give him everything he wants and more to make the fight, Caleb Plant said. I'm more than willing, able, and ready to fight Canelo Alvarez on any date. Now, this is not to just basic Canelo fans, but if you're a radical Canelo fan, this is definitely going to be to you. Caleb Plant's story, Boxingego's story, the great Ego Stradamus, it all checks out. It all checks out. If you listen to what the Canelo radical fans, and that's basically the gist of this article, I'll put the link in so you guys can read it, but I'm not going to read every piece of, literature and all that, but that's the gist of it. So they're both look like they're training. Caleb Plant is definitely in the gym and staying ready and staying hungry. He wasn't discouraged by the fallout of the first Canelo negotiations because he knew he would be fighting somebody, and he's a disciplined fighter, so he's staying in shape, staying ready, and it looks like he's going to get the fight that he really wants, career high payday, and good things come to those who wait. Bad look for the Canelo radical fans, because the great Ego Stradamus strikes again. A lot of people, they looked at it when it appeared that the fight was dead, because for at least for September 18th, for all intents and purposes, it was dead. And they blamed it on Al Heyman, blamed it on PBC, and blamed it on Caleb Plant. A lot of the radical Canelo fans and the racist fans, they said Caleb Plant is ducking, he's scared, Al Heyman had a bogus deal, and Caleb Plant, I heard it all. They said Caleb Plant wanted too much money, and that's why the fight fell apart, because their Lord and Savior, Canelo Alvarez, the racist, they're just going to push an agenda. So they don't care what makes sense and what the truth is. They're just trying to find a way to paint Canelo in a good light, as opposed to looking at the pure facts. And the reality is, all of what they said has now been disproven by Ego Stradamus, Caleb Plant, and PBC, because at the end of the day, if what old media said and what the Caleb Plant detractors and the Canelo diehard supporters said, it's not adding up. They said the deal was bogus and Caleb Plant wants too much money, right? So if the deal's bogus, why are you back in negotiations? And according to ESPN and others, the fight looks like it's coming back around, but just at a later date, right? So that's a bad look. It doesn't suit the agenda that was pushed from the Canelo fans. They blamed it on this man you see on the screen, Caleb Plant. But again, if what he said wasn't true, it has never, ever been publicly dismissed or disproven from Canelo's side. A lot of the Canelo fans and apologists said, oh, that's what Caleb Plant is saying, as if he was lying. Caleb Plant, in the original ESPN interview, literally called everybody's bluff. The final sentence, and I'm so glad he said this, he says, if anybody does not believe what I'm telling you, I got the receipts to prove it. I'll prove it right now. And not one Canelo fan or Eddie Reynoso or Canelo Alvarez or Eddie Hearn or nobody actually came out. Eddie Hearn was the only one that even publicly spoke on it surrounding Canelo's immediate team. And he did an interview with DAZN, and he clearly avoided a response. Eddie Hearn, to combat what Caleb Plant says, did an interview with a Sports Illustrated reporter, but who also works for DAZN. He said when the contracts came through, it wasn't agreed on both sides. I've seen the comments from Caleb Plant. I'm sure Canelo got his own opinion of those comments as well. But the important thing is it couldn't be agreed, and it couldn't be agreed for September 18th. That doesn't answer anything. So Caleb Plant was clearly telling the truth. He challenged anybody to call his bluff. He said we have all the paperwork and the receipts to prove the comments I'm making in this ESPN interview, and not one person from Canelo's team, Canelo, Eddie, Chepo, Reynoso, Eddie Hearn, or whatever, none of them came back and refuted what Caleb Plant says. Now Canelo's back in negotiation because he realizes it was a good deal. And this is just a bad look for old media, because at the end of the day, they were rejoicing, thinking that the Caleb Plant fight was over. And the other thing is, this is how fake a lot of the Canelo racist fans are. And I'm just talking to the racist ones, is they told you when they look, it's like the tide or a wave or a current. Some fight fans are not even fight fans. They're really just fans of individual fighters or race fans, right? Because even though this was undisputed, this is what Canelo said he wanted, all the belts. He said at 160 and 168. But then when it looked like there was trouble in paradise and the Caleb Plant fight was dead, and Canelo all of a sudden switched gears and said, all right, I'm not going to do undisputed. Give me Dimitri Bivol on a 4-week training camp with a catchweight. Then all of his fans, the racist ones at least, and the biased ones, they said, oh yeah, this is the better fight anyway. We love the Bivol fight. Caleb Plant sucks. This is a bad fight. Caleb Plant can't fight, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about undisputed? Caleb wanted too much money. And they spent all this time trying to throw Caleb Plant and Al Heyman and PBC's name through the mud, only to be back at square one. And now they're saying Canelo and Caleb Plant are nearing a deal for November. Another thing that looks bad is random drug testing. The whole purpose of random drug testing is to not know the schedule and not, get caught off guard if an athlete is on something. Caleb Plant was ready in September, and Canelo acted like the deal wasn't good enough, only to revisit the deal. So it looks like you're buying time for someone who's failed a drug test before. So that's a real bad look. The optics of that is a bad look. The optics of it is a bad look. At the end of the day, that's a way to kind of game the system. If you tell the whole world you're fighting on an X, Y, and Z date, and year upon year after year, for the last 3-4 years, Canelo has missed one of the Mexican dates. These are reserved dates that he said he wanted. So to me, that's a bad look. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're not truly doing the optimum drug testing if you just keep pushing him back from what you said you wanted. He said he wanted the Mexican dates. Now Canelo switched it and say he don't care. Every day he fights is a holiday. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's a good fight, but this is great vindication for PBC, Caleb Plant, and also Igor Stradamus. I wanted to see the fight, so if it gets announced, then I'll be happy with it. But it's a sad and bad look for the Canelo man fans, because these are the same ones who, no matter what Canelo says or does, he could wear pajamas and they want to wear pajamas. They want to dye their hair red and paint freckles on their face. He says he's fighting for undisputed. They say, oh, he can't fight. Canelo can't fight David Benavidez because he don't have a belt. He can't fight Jamal Charlo. He don't have a belt. And then when he says he don't care about undisputed anymore, and it looked like the Caleb Plant fight is dead, and he said he's going to fight Bivol, then the same people, in an effort to excuse Canelo's behavior and horrible negotiating tactics, right? They said the Bivol fight was better. Now we're back at square one, and it looks like he's going to fight the person that y'all said offered him a bad deal. PBC, Al Heyman, and Caleb Plant. The same guy that old media said was scared of Canelo. So Caleb Plant, in a matter of months, went from scared and ducking, and Al Heyman, they said it was a multi-fight deal, and Caleb Plant wanted too much money. And now Canelo's back in negotiations with them, and it looks like the fight is actually going to go down from my sources and according to ESPN sources as well. Boom. You never know. I must be the greatest when it comes to this boxing talk. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I'm the best at it. Subscribe to the channel. Canelo, Caleb Plant coming up next. I know the haters are mad, and I'm out.